Thanks for joining us today on the Free Roll Podcast. Cameron here as always with Tim. Today we had Gary from Tigatu. He runs Tigatu, which is a clothing company. They support fighters, they support mountain bike racers, they support dirt bike racers, they support all sorts of things. And we had a great conversation talking about his company, where he got started, how he got in with all these different sports, and what he's doing with this company. I had a great time, man. What'd you think?
Probably one of my most favorite episodes up to this point. The guy, super authentic. His business model is very impressive. The guy knows what he's doing. He's setting goals, and he's not letting anything get in the way of those goals. And the coolest thing about it is he's probably one of the most humble people I've had in this studio. He didn't really want to talk much about him. He was really talking a lot about the people that he surrounds himself with. And I think as a business point of view, and even from a consumer's perspective, I think he's doing an amazing job. He's got people who are repping him, who have good reputations. He's, like you were saying in the podcast, he's not Mr. Professional. He's somebody who goes in there, he's genuine. He's not just going to shake your hand. He'll give you a hug. He wants to know how you're doing. And I think he does a pretty good job at splitting his time between managing his business and making sure that he takes care of himself and those that he surrounds himself with.
And I think when people listen, they're going to get to know that that's probably the key to a lot of his success, is the fact that he's humble and he's just a transparent dude, and he just kind of keeps trudging forward with what he needs to do. When we talk about his goals, never once did he say it was to make money or be a millionaire. It was to help with people and what they're doing, help achieve their goals and dreams. And the other side of it is it gives him an opportunity to pursue and fulfill his dreams, and he's been doing a great job so far. I'm excited to see what's coming for him.
Yeah, well, he's definitely not chasing the money, and I think people who chase their dreams, the money will come with it, and that's what he's doing. So
totally agree. We had a great time with Gary. Super excited to have him on. I'm a big fan of Tigatu, their products, so I was excited to get him in here. So definitely stay tuned. He was one of my favorite conversations.
Most definitely. And have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks for joining us today on the Free Roll Podcast. Cameron and Tim here as always. Today we got Gary from Tigatu in. Super pumped to have him. Gary, you were one of the first people I wanted to have on this show. It was just a matter of getting you in town.
Very cool.
And chatting with you.
Very cool.
Gary, as I said, runs Tigatu. He wears all the hats. He's the president, CEO. Everything falls on you. It's a you and your brother operation, but you're kind of the head of that.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have you, man. First of all, just tell us about you. Like, where do you come from? What do you do?
Oh, man, how far back do you want to go?
However far you want.
Where I come from, we're originally from Phoenix, Arizona. We've kind of bounced around a little bit between Eastern Oregon. Spent some time there in our childhood. Ended up going to college there and spent a few years in La Grande.
What'd you study?
Business.
Oh,
yeah.
Perfect.
Well, I played baseball, to be honest. I didn't study much, unfortunately. But, yeah, I played baseball, but studied business.
Nice.
Yeah. And from there, moved on to Seattle and decided not to go back to Phoenix.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Seattle and Phoenix, climate-wise.
Totally different.
Couldn't get more opposite.
Totally different. Yeah, for sure.
What took you to Seattle?
Mom was living up there and went up. Took a break from school. It was Christmas break or something. And I drove over Snoqualmie Pass for the first time, and that was it. I shut it down, called my dad and said, I'm not coming back, and I'm going to end up in Seattle. So been there for about 17 years.
Yeah, Seattle tends to have that effect. For me personally, my favorite city, my wife and I went there on our honeymoon. Yeah. It was literally the same thing. You drive over Snoqualmie Pass, and it's like, what does it take to move to Seattle?
Yeah, it's pretty. And we talk about it all the time. I mean, it's a place that it's never lost on us how beautiful it is when we drive around. I mean, every trip home from Boise when we're down here, we go over that pass and you got to stay on the road because you're too busy staring out the window. I mean, it's just gorgeous.
Beautiful place.
For
Beautiful
sure.
drive.
Yeah.
Worth the, what is it, 14 hours, something like that, 12 hours?
That's about 7 or 8, depending on how fast you want to go.
Depending on who's driving.
Yeah. Or what you're driving. If you're driving the truck, you're stopping for gas a lot more.
True. True.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So you've been there for about 17 years.
Yeah.
When did Tigatu get started?
Tigatu as an idea kind of started way back, early 2000s. It was something that I had thought about on my road trips between LeGrand and Seattle. And, at the time when we were in college, my buddies and I, it was more the humorous, funny stuff. And so when you're in LeGrand, you go out to the cities, either Boise or Tri-Cities, and we'd go look for shirts and try and find the funny stuff. And everybody's a competition to find the raunchiest, nastiest shirt that makes people laugh. And so that was kind of where the concept came in. We kind of talked about it for years. It was one of those things that we're just kind of intimidated getting started, I think. And then in 2006, just pulled the trigger and got the business license, and off we went. So
2006, huh?
2006, yeah. It shocks a lot of people, I'm sure, that we've been around that long. We're still pretty small, but it's kind of
12 years into this thing.
Yeah. The first years, we were in our garage, freezing, trying to print some stuff. We started out with a digital garment printer. So that was our first piece of equipment that we got, and so spent quite a bit of time learning that machine and how it works and everything else. And we're doing custom stuff for people around the area, and we just kind of fiddled around with that for quite a few years. And the idea of Tigatu as far as a brand was out there, but it took us a while to really get it going. And I guess it was about 2012 when we took the plunge and decided, okay, let's start pushing this brand side of it, start moving out of the custom side of things, and really push our brand and see what we can do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Tigatu, just so everybody's clear, that is the pronunciation, the official pronunciation, Tigatu.
But our mom sometimes calls it Tigatu or stuff like that. So it's if she can mess up, everybody else can. It doesn't matter.
Many people do. So where's the name come from?
It stands for Tim, Gary, and Tucker. The three of us that started the business. Tucker being one of my college teammates, roommate, moved up to Seattle when he finished at Eastern, and we started the business, and that's kind of the name that stuck. So it's the first 2 letters of each of our names.
Nice.
Yeah.
Never would have guessed.
Yeah. There's no spiritual meaning behind it or anything like that. It's pretty simple.
It does sound like that. Like a Shaolin monk type of a word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming from the Pacific Northwest, you think it's some like old Indian word or something.
I gotta start thinking of some cool story to tell, because our names it's not that fun.
You can elaborate and put it on your website. I think it would attract people. I think it would entertain people.
For sure. For sure.
People like that.
And then Tim's your brother.
Tim is my brother.
He's your partner.
He is
partner in crime.
He is.
He's here with us.
Yeah.
If you guys are watching, you can probably see Gary's brother's here too.
Yeah.
Both a couple bald dudes.
Yeah.
You got good heads for being bald. I don't think Tim and I can pull it off. Tim's here. He's kind of got the Scott Van Pelt look going on.
Oh.
Do you get that a lot?
Oh yeah. I get approached sometimes. I don't know if anybody can hear me when I'm not sitting next to them.
Little bit.
But yeah, I was actually approached in like airports and stuff like that. Hey, did you know? And like before they finish the sentence, yep, I know.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I was getting it well before I even knew who Scott was. To be honest, I don't watch ESPN, but I was getting that quite a bit. So I actually ended up briefly on the show apparently.
Yeah.
Because
it's a funny story.
We were out here at one of the events, and we were at Fatty's one night, and I was cutting a rug late at night, and somebody put it on Twitter, and it was like a look-alike contest or something like that. So I ended up on ESPN briefly.
That's funny.
Oh, it was crazy. He was he does the Where in the World is SVP or whatever. And somebody sent it in and say, hey, I found him in Boise, and it was after the first Bellator event. And Scott Van Pelt, you can see it on the show. He's on the show, and he's at the desk, and behind him is this huge screen, and it's just him out there dancing with his Tigatu hoodie on. It's like, oh no.
Nice. At least he was repping the brand.
Oh, I know. And then when he first heard about it, he was just, oh my God, that's terrible. And then we started thinking, I was like, well, you had Tigatu out there, man. That's pretty cool.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So you guys have been in Seattle for a while, but recently in the midst of making a move, right?
We are. Yeah. We're pulling up shop, and we are gonna end up in Idaho, but we're gonna end up in Coeur d'Alene. So we took a trip. We've got a downhill team as well, and so the downhill team started racing in Kellogg a couple years ago, And I took a trip over to go watch him race and was blown away. I mean, drove by Lake Coeur d'Alene, and because we had initially started talking about Montana as where we wanted to go, but we didn't really want to swap rain for snow, and so need a little bit more of the seasonal changes. And came home and told my brother and his wife at the time, I said, hey, we need to check this out. And so went back for the downhill races the following year and spent more time really looking around. And yeah, that's where we're settling on. So we're looking at 10, 20 acres somewhere out there we're going to build.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
You're going to have the living quarters and the business all on the same property?
Yeah, I'm staying flexible on what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to end up on one side of the property in his home. I'm going to look at doing kind of like a pole barn shop home combo thing and have the business on one side and my house on the other. But we'll see. It's going to be scalable. So
that's awesome.
My goal is, I mean, with this house sale, clearing debt and everything else, I'm not really looking to go mount a bunch more debt. And so we'll just see how it works. If it's too expensive for me to do that, I'll scale down and do something smaller and then do a shop. But we're going to end up on 20 acres outside Coeur d'Alene one way or another. So
sounds like a dream.
It's going to be awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
We always give you a hard time about, you're moving, but you're not coming to Boise.
I know.
Everybody teases you. We just love having you around, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I mean, we appreciate everybody and how we're treated when we come down. I mean, every time we come into the gym or before fights, after fights, whatever it is. I mean, we're always meeting new people, and it's always weird how we get treated. It seems like there's a lot of respect that comes our way, and we're just a couple guys making T-shirts, to be honest with you. I mean, that's how it feels. So, I love coming down here, and the way we get treated has been amazing. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I know we see your stuff all the time at our gym, but we see your stuff all the time at the fights downtown. I think it's gotten to a point where Tigatu and Front Street fights are tethered together.
That's cool.
So even though you guys are just on that end making T-shirts, you're a pretty integral part of the Valley's growth of MMA and the popularity and a lot of the fighters personally. But I know Todd from Front Street's a big supporter of Tigatu. Wears your stuff, supports your stuff, and so I mean, you guys are kind of like celebrities,
I don't know about that.
The big designer comes to town.
Yeah. Well, when you made your post and said what you said, it was like, that all sounds pretty official, man. I'm just a guy hanging out making T-shirts. That's all I am. So yeah.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, I know in the past few years, like I said, we see your brand all over Front Street fights. We've seen it at jiu-jitsu competitions. It's starting to pop up, and we've been showing it off at the boxing events too.
Nice.
So making waves down here,
we
just getting into the whole combat
really
sports scene.
Very cool.
And we kind of mentioned it earlier, but you sponsor fighters.
We do, yeah.
Who do you sponsor?
Oh, wow. We started out here in Boise is kind of where the nucleus of our guys are. We've got Jesse Brock, Scott Tometz, Matt Jones, Ricky Steele, Josh Wick, Brandon Hempelman, and then down in, God, I hope I didn't forget anybody. It would be terrible. We got Nick Urso down in Albuquerque at Jackson's, and then we have Anthony Hamilton, who's up in Seattle.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He recently had himself quite a night, right?
He did. Yeah, he won the Dominate FC heavyweight title last weekend.
Were you there for that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Wouldn't miss it. It's cool. It's a new promotion up there. So anytime we get to go check out a new promotion and see how they do things, it's really neat. Great show, good talent. Had Amy Montenegro on there against a girl, Amanda Granger, who is, man, we would love to see her down here at Front Street because she's got a massive following and just a really good fighter. But Anthony's fight, he did what he needed to do. He had a little bit smaller opponent and just completely overwhelmed him for 5 rounds. Beat him up on the ground and won the fight easily. So many takedowns, just looked good.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you want. He's a
You bet.
solid prospect up and coming.
He's
I
a
feel
big boy.
like most of his opponents seem small to him. That is a large person.
He is. And
He's a big fella.
It's been interesting to see his physique change through the years because we started working with him, I guess it was right before he got picked up by MFC. And from then to now, he's toned out a lot. I mean, he's a specimen. He's a big boy. But just a super nice guy, just a very humble, generous guy. So love working with him.
Sounds like the kind of guy you want repping your brand.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, we've been very lucky in who we have representing top to bottom, whether it be in MMA, downhill, motocross. Have just managed to link up with people that are not only, in my opinion, world-class athletes, but world-class people. Work ethic-wise, how they treat people, the respect they show, they're just incredible, and that's top to bottom. You can say that about any one of them. For
Excellent.
sure.
I mean, it sounds like it's really a partnership.
It is.
You're not just throwing your brand on anybody you want.
Yeah.
You're representing them. They're representing you.
Yeah.
It's really kind of a cohesive partnership.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I tell people when we start out is, first of all, we're going to go against the grain. We don't do this the way that anybody else does it. We don't follow any of the rules. We don't do the stuff we're supposed to do. Case in point, Todd Carlson does a great job of sharing knowledge about the sport and what he expects to see from athletes. And let's face it, the sport has changed a lot, and it's about followings, it's about fan bases, sure, talent and everything else, but are you going to put butts in the seats? And that's what they want to know.
Sure.
And so Todd does a good job of, helping fighters through that process and kind of explaining it a little bit. And I tell you what, when I read it, it's so not how we do things. I tell people this is not a sponsorship, it's a partnership. You are more than just a billboard to me and to us. You're part of our family, and that's why we call it the Tigatu family. And we're going to do everything we can to promote you. We're never going to dictate what you say about us or when you say it. I want organic. That's what I want, because if there's a mutual partnership going on, and I'm going to talk about you because that's what I want to do, hopefully that's reciprocated through that.
Sure.
But I will never dictate it, ever. It's just not going to happen. It's not how it works.
Not telling your fighters or riders to go out there with a list that says, I
Yeah.
want to thank all of my sponsors. Special thanks to Tigatu.
That doesn't do anything. That
Right.
doesn't do anything. And when it's organic, you feel that. You know what I mean? And so to me, that means more to me as a business owner. If I have an athlete or, anybody saying nice things about us, that means more to me because that's organic. That's not me telling you what to say. That's not me telling you when to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how everybody else does it. We don't want to be like that. We want to be different. So, for sure.
You guys even have a little bit different mission statement and mantra than something I've ever heard. And going against the grain seems to be something that really is to use the word you used, kind of the nucleus of your business model. You guys have the mission statement of freedom from ordinary.
Yeah.
Where's that come from? Tell me about that.
Very point blank. When we first started getting into stuff like this, we did not want to be the Ed Hardys, the Afflictions.
Thank God.
Gaudy, just fill that shirt with sequins and whatever the hell you can put on it, glitter. That wasn't us. We wanted simplistic, simple designs, and found over time through our athletes that that's what they were looking for as well. And so that's what we stuck with.
So you don't have a specific line of bedazzled skull and crossbones by chance?
Not yet, and I don't think that's coming.
All right. Well,
So yeah,
2005 is going to have to be put on hold for a little bit.
for sure.
Well, I love your stuff, man. I mean, I'm
I
wearing
appreciate
a
it.
sweet Tigatu shirt right now that was actually given to me at the gym, and I'm so glad I got you person to person because I've wondered for about a year now.
Yeah,
what I'm wearing.
that is called the bear wing.
The bear wing.
Yeah, that's one of the early designs. Tucker came up with that one.
How? Where did this come from?
It was I don't know whether it was a whiskey induced phase he was in, but he had a phase where he was putting a lot of weird animal stuff together.
Nice.
And that one stuck, and people really enjoyed it and liked it, and so that kind of became one of our flagship designs early on.
It's very cool. It's very unique. Every time I wear this, because it doesn't say Tigatu on the front, it says it on the back. On the front, it's just a bear with wings.
Yeah.
Every single time I wear this, somebody approaches me and says, what you got going on there?
Yeah.
And I don't know what to tell them other than, it's an opportunity to promote your brand.
Yeah.
So when Tucker comes to you and he's like, Gary, check it out. It's a bear, but with wings.
Yeah.
Your response is what?
Give me a few shots and we'll check it out. It's I mean, I wasn't coming up with anything back then, so what can I really say? You know what I mean? I wasn't designing anything. I wasn't on Photoshop. I wasn't doing the things these guys were doing. So, I couldn't really stomp on anyone. I thought it looked cool, so I was like, hey, let's roll with it.
It is super cool. This is literally one of my favorite shirts. It's awesome. And then a lot of your other shirts have your traditional symbol. It says Tigatu, and what's around it?
A wreath.
A wreath.
Yeah. No real sentimental value there. I mean,
Just a good look.
meaning or anything like that. It just stuck. It looked cool. It was designed early on, and we've adapted a little bit since. You know, when the downhill team really started kicking in a few years ago, we came up with a little different, bolder one. But yeah, we play with it every once in a while.
It's a great look. It always stands out,
Thank
whether
you.
it's on the posters for the fighters or shirts or whatever. I mean, it just pops. It always looks really.
We do get
really
a lot
super
of
sharp.
a lot of comments on the name. Number one, it being, you know, catchy and
Very
the
unique.
logo and everything else. So it feels good to hear that, because it was a, you know, dudes in their 20s just kind of putting this thing together, and so there wasn't a whole lot of rhyme or reason for what we were doing back then. We were just kind of doing what we thought was cool. So to find out that it's working and sticking and people are liking it, that's great.
So when you guys put the name together, was there any epiphany moment of, man, this really stands out as something different, or was it just sort of by chance?
Well, I don't know. We'd ran through a handful of other ones, and I think we'd had enough where it was like, that doesn't really work, you know. And then when this one came together, and I don't remember exactly how it came together, but when it came, you know, just rolling off the tongue, it was like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's stick with that. It was a mutual decision. I mean, everybody was on board right away. So
You guys just nailed it.
we knew it. That was it.
That's great to see,
Yeah.
because, as I mentioned, your design really, really pops. I mean, we've all seen it. The fighters in the corner, their posters behind them, it has all their sponsors, and a lot of them can get lost, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect to any sponsors, but
Right.
a lot of it can kind of get lost in the shuffle, whereas the ones that are the most memorable, the most successful, I think, stand out amongst the rest.
Yeah.
Your guys, between your design, your name, everything, there's just so many things about it that catch the eye, from the design to the name. I mean, there's, you know, somebody comes in with brand X, and people are like, oh, that's cool that,
Right.
you know, you work with them or they're your sponsor. But your name is so unique that people, when you say a name and it's responded with immediately a question, that's a
Right.
good thing.
Right.
Because you're getting a conversation
Yeah.
started instead of like, oh, I'm sponsored by, you know,
Right.
Todd's Shirts.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah. Don't need to know anymore.
Nothing else to know.
Yeah.
Oh, Tigatu.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. It starts a conversation, which
Yeah.
I think is super sharp on your guys' end.
Very cool.
That's great.
I appreciate that.
Circling back to the fighters you're working with, Nick Urso, you mentioned, he fights out of Greg Jackson's gym in
He does.
Albuquerque. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell me what he's got going on. He's a great
Man,
up-and-coming prospect.
That guy, he's one of my favorite people, to be honest with you. I love the way that he handles himself. He's a no bullshit guy. He's just going to tell you how it is, and he works his ass off. He's done so well down there that he's now a coach at Jackson's, and they just opened up Greg Jackson's original gym in Acoma, I believe it is. So he's business partners now with Keith Jardine and EJ Roberts.
Oh, wow.
So the three of them are now running that gym. So he's a busy dude, and I talked to him recently. We're trying to link up because they did their opener in August, and he wanted Tim and I down there to hang out and check it out. And I lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going there.
Wanted you to go down, hang out.
Yeah. Oh, so I asked him. I said, so what does this mean as far as, you know, your fight career? Because he's doing a lot of coaching. He's running the gym now as a business owner. And he said that's still there. The guy's always in shape. He's training every day, so he could take a fight on a day's notice if he needed to. And he said it's there. He's going to get going after it again. I think he'll probably end up in LFA. I believe he belongs in the UFC personally, but I'm a biased guy. I'm gonna talk highly of all my people, for sure.
Well, he's doing a lot of good things to get himself there. I think the UFC is probably an inevitability.
Yeah,
For a guy like Nick,
For sure.
He's a heck of a fighter.
Yeah.
He's, you know, in a great camp to be exposed to that stuff.
Yeah.
LFA is a great organization that's, you know, maybe one tier below
Yep.
UFC and Bellator.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's making all the right steps,
Yeah.
and he's well on his way.
Yeah, and he's fought for LFA a few times and done well. He's just good everywhere. You know, he's good on the ground. He's good on his feet. I got to see him live, actually a few years ago down in Albuquerque, and man, watching that guy fight live, he's a pit bull, and he's fun, and he's the crowd involved. Like, again, he doesn't care. And I think his last fight in LFA, they were, you know, talking to him after the win, and the fans are all booing and stuff because I think he'd beaten a local guy, and he's like, you know, the fans are all booing, but I don't give a fuck. Like, he just doesn't care. He does what he is set out to do, and he's not going to let anything get in his way. And that I just have a ton of respect for.
That's exactly what you want. I mean, it's not always just about wins and losses. It's still the sport of entertainment.
Yeah.
And everybody cheering you is great.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in the building booing you can equally be just as good for you.
Yep.
Because you're noticed, you've got a reaction from people.
Yep.
They want to see you again. Even, take Conor McGregor, for example. Half the people are going to cheer for him. They love him. Half of them boo him. But everybody that boos him will pay to watch him fight.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
They're going to look forward to it. Even if they hate his guts and want him to lose, they're going to pay for every fight that guy has to watch him.
Yep.
Which is great. Not to say that, Nick is in any way like a villain in the way that, in the way that Conor can sometimes be perceived.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the reaction is great, and he's super excited. How'd you get hooked up with him in the first place?
Oh, it was funny, man. I was driving home from work one day, and I got a call from Anthony Hamilton, and I was driving, so I pulled over real quick, and he's like, "Hey, man, we're sitting at weigh-ins for Legacy before they switched over to LFA," and he said Urso's getting ready to go up, and he needs a sponsor. You mind helping him out? Can you throw a little money his way? And I said, "I tell you what, I'll get home, talk to my brother, and we'll let you know." So I got home, talked to Tim, said, "Hey, here's the situation," and he was like, "Do it, let's do it." So we set it up. Unfortunately, there was obviously no time to do his gear and stuff because we do the walkouts for all the guys, and so all he had was the shirts that we sent with Anthony. Well, Urso's a 25er, and Anthony's a heavyweight. So Urso runs out to the cage in his XX Tigatu t-shirt. Looks like a nightgown. Runs to the cage, rips this thing off, and that's where we got started with Urso.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's almost meant to be.
Oh, it was looking back on it now, I think that was actually our first time that we had an athlete wearing our logo on TV.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a really big deal. And didn't really know much about Nick at the time. Had heard about him through Anthony. Anthony, they're really close. Their relationship was really funny to watch. But yeah, once we got hooked up, it's been a blessing ever since. I love that guy.
That's awesome. You got a lot of support from him. I see you guys interacting back and forth on social media all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Again, going back to that partnership.
Yes.
You guys have a really successful
For
partnership.
Sure. He's been very good to us. Very good to us. Yeah.
So being from Seattle, how'd you get hooked up with all the knuckleheads in Boise?
Oh man, that starts back in 2012.
Wow.
We were in town for the Big Nasty. We were here vendoring the Big Nasty Hill Climb, and we had Brandon Shuey and Rowdy Akers walked into our tent, and Brandon.
Rowdy.
What's that?
I love Rowdy.
Oh, he's a great guy.
He's been in here on the Pro Edge podcast.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we ran into him last night.
He's a cat,
hugs all around, man. I love that guy. But anyway, they walked in, and Brandon asked us, he said, "Hey, do you guys do anything in MMA?" And at that time, we actually were trying to find a foot in the door. The only avenue we had at that point was a guy that I worked with that had talked about starting to train. And we were like, "Oh, we got to get our shirts on you." And that was the only thing we had. So Brandon gave me his card, and we gave him a call and kind of got started with the Team Hardcore group back in the XFS days when that was going on, 2012, 13. So that's where we got our foot in the door, was working with Team Hardcore.
Nice. Team Hardcore, to my knowledge, no longer around, but still a lot of MMA in the Valley.
Yeah.
And you sponsor fighters from what gyms? Is it just Combat Fitness, SBG?
Yeah. Well, and that kind of, man, it kind of created some issues early on because we weren't aware of the issues that, in the past between Shuey and Jesse and stuff like that. And so initially we were just working specifically with hardcore and got called up by Alfred and asked if we'd be willing to help out Talon Hoffman. And so started working with Talon and started learning or getting to know Alfred a little bit and other opportunities coming our way. And so the perception was that we only specifically worked with SBG fighters, and that's not the case. In fact, we've had a few SBG guys that have left and gone out of town to train elsewhere, and changes have happened within the management and everything else, but we've stuck with those people. So our partnership with these guys is independent of the gyms or the managers or whoever they're with. We work specifically with that athlete. It makes it much easier for us when it's a cohesive group and everybody's together and on the same page, but we can work directly with them, no problem. So it's not specifically SBG. It's anybody that comes our way and we're interested and see a mutual, agreement there, then that's what we'll do.
I know a couple fighters that have left the Valley that I believe are still repped by you. Or,
Yeah.
Matt Jones, Josh Wick,
Mhm.
fighting down in Dwayne Ludwig's gym
Yep.
in Colorado.
Yes.
Which has got to be kind of exciting for you that your brand is now, heading into different states, into different
Yeah.
gyms, different academies. These guys are going to fight in different organizations. I mean, it really expands your network.
Mhm.
Is that exciting for you?
It is, to be honest. I don't really think about it like that. I don't. I guess I tend to focus more on what it's going to mean for them.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I don't spend too much time thinking about, the fact that our logo is being seen here, there, or wherever. And yeah, sure, when you take a minute and think about it, it's like, man, that's pretty wild.
Mhm.
To think that 5 years ago we were just hoping to get our foot in the door, and now we've got guys fighting at all the top organizations and in some of the biggest gyms there is. It's really cool, but I don't spend a ton of time thinking about that. I tend to focus more on them and their career and what they're trying to do and how I can help them.
I'd imagine that's probably the most successful recipe for your relationship with the fighters.
Yeah.
Is you're not saying, go do this, go do
Yeah.
that. Like you mentioned earlier, you're
Yeah.
not telling them to do certain things, who
Yeah.
to talk to, when to mention you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's,
Yeah.
just plays into your focus, your relationship.
Yeah, and the reaction we get when they find out that's how we do things is awesome, because that's exactly what I want. I mean, that when they hear that, I mean, it automatically changes their perception and makes them open to hearing more and learning more about what we're doing. And when I can recognize that, that just adds fuel to my fire, because then there's opportunity there,
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned it a couple times as we've been talking, but you're not only sponsoring MMA fighters, you also sponsor another sport. Tell us about that.
Yeah, a couple different sports. We've got downhill mountain biking, and then we've got a girl, Kendall Reed, that kind of bounces between enduro and motocross, and now she's doing hill climb. In fact, she was just here a couple weeks ago. Only this summer did she decide she wanted to start doing hill climb, and has done 2 events, and the second one was a couple weeks ago here for the Big Nasty, and she finished second out of 17 pro women, and she just smashed the hill. It's like, this is incredible.
And it was
man.
just a recent decision to even try
Yeah,
getting into
it's
this.
like, hey, I want to go do downhill. It looks fun. Or hill climb. It looks fun. And off she went.
She
So
just kills it.
she's a stud, man.
And what's her name?
Kendall Reed.
Kendall Reed.
Yeah.
Great job, Kendall.
Yeah, she's
way to kill it.
She's so cool, man. She's fun. I need to hang out with her more. I want to get more photos and video and do some stuff with her, because number one, she's a hell of an athlete. To do what she does on a bike, and I've been an advocate or a huge dirt bike guy my whole life. Just have always wanted to get into Supercross and do stuff like that, and so I've never done anything remotely close. But to sit and watch her do what she does is incredible.
But you never got into it yourself personally?
Here's the story. It's kind of funny, man. The first time I rode a dirt bike, I was in Prescott Valley, Arizona. I was probably 6. And I had a kid that we went to school with that had a little 50. And he was probably my friend because I knew he had the 50. And so all we wanted to do was go ride his bike. So one day parents all agreed, said, hey, let's go do this. So we went over to his house and we're all riding his bike. Well, I got on it and I couldn't stop it. And I almost ran his mom over. And at that moment, it like put paranoia in me from that moment on. I bought my first dirt bike at 29, and I still had that nervousness from when I was 6 years old stuck in my head, man. It's crazy. But I've been out riding with friends of mine that, we had a neighbor that they would all race, and they're maniacs, and we'd go off somewhere to go ride, and they're trying to get me to do all this crazy jumping stuff. And I'm like, guys, I'm just trying to get out of first gear. Like, let's just slow this down. I'm not very good at it, so I take it easy.
Sounds like the right thing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So sponsor some downhill mountain biking.
Yeah, the downhill guys.
Some dirt biking, some MMA fighters, some
Yeah.
really the action sports.
Yeah.
So when you, as a brand for Tigatu, or even just you as Gary, you have your company, you have Tigatu, what leads you to the decision to want to sponsor athletes, and why these sports, I should say, specifically?
To be honest with you, I don't think it really has anything to do with the sport. And the reason why I say that is I'm more interested in the person. I gravitate towards people that step out of the norm. Don't just go to college, get a job, do, because that's just, that drives me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I run into athletes that are, doing these different sports, but doing them seriously and putting their time, and if they're doing it full time, that's just incredible to me. I have a huge amount of respect for it. I don't know exactly how I was going to finish that. I lose my train of thought quite a bit. I just start rambling and I forget.
Yeah, me too. Story of my life.
It's bad, man.
That's why I'm not talking.
Yeah, it
I'll
drives me
ramble and
nuts.
forget
It
everything
drives
I'm
me
talking about.
nuts. But oh yeah. Oh, so no, I know where I was going. Okay, it's not necessarily about the sports. It's about the people,
Mm-hmm.
and I say that because I've got a friend of mine that I've known for a long time. Really cool guy, but he's a hell of a fly fisherman. And it's been cool to see the fly fishing industry kind of change a little bit through the years, and it's not so much the old man sport. You've got a lot of the younger generations now that are changing the face of fly fishing. And so for years I'd wanted him to, you got to go in that direction, man. You got to go check that out. And so he finally did. And now he's working in a fly shop, and he's one of their teachers and everything else. But he takes some of these incredible trips hiking 10,000 feet to these alpine lakes, and he'll spend a weekend with his dog just out fishing. And once I reconnected with him and was hearing about what he was up to, the first thing I thought of is, we got to shoot a video. I want to tell your story. I want to hike up with you for the weekend and take photos and video of you doing your thing. So it's not necessarily about the sport. It's about the person and what they're up to and what they're wanting to do, because that's what I gravitate to, like I said. So it doesn't have to be a specific sport or anything like that. It's about the person.
So can we expect to see some Tigatu waders coming up here on the
I don't know.
website?
I don't know about that. I know a lot of people who hunt, and they bug me every year for stuff.
Some camo stuff?
Oh, they all want camo stuff.
Bright orange?
Yeah. Save me out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to look cool.
I know. I bug you all the time. Like, when are you going to make rash guards, man?
Oh, so
Tigatu rash
they're
guards.
coming, man.
Are they?
They're coming, yeah.
Yes.
In fact, I was talking with Jesse today.
Super
'cause
exciting.
I want, I'm going to get a little help from the guys about, how we want to put these together. I got an idea of what I want to do, but I want to do the rash guards and fight shorts and stuff like that, and put them in gear packs for these guys.
Heck yeah.
and get them up. So I'm really excited. I want to work with the guys at Combat Corner, because I really like their stuff.
Yes.
And I know
Great products.
a lot of the fighters we work with love their stuff.
Yes.
So they've had a great relationship with SBG, I know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's who we're going to talk to when the time comes.
Dude, I'm in, man.
Yeah.
Your first larges,
Everything-
just set them aside.
Every time I see you, I think, when are these coming out, man? So we're going to work on that.
You just make such good stuff, man.
I appreciate
it's
it.
hard. I don't want to buy anybody else's
That's
stuff.
awesome, man. You're so good to us.
You mentioned that you kind of seek out people who cut their own path and get away from the normal cookie cutter
Yeah.
lifestyle, which is interesting because it seems like that's how you kind of have lived a little bit. Yes, you went
Yeah.
to college, but not everyone starts their own brand.
Yeah.
They go work for someone else.
Yep.
What was it like? I know it's the three of you. What was it like for the three of you really kind of deciding, hey, we're going to make a hard left here and give this a shot.
Yeah.
Get out on our own.
Yeah.
And start doing something we're passionate about to cut our own path.
Well, it's first and foremost, this isn't a full-time gig for me. Tigatu is something that I do on the side. I have a full-time job, and I've been in the same company for the last 17 years. So it's not something that we've, put our nuts on the table, so to speak,
Sure.
and said, hey, we're going to go do this. This business has been designed to, and again, like I said before, it's different than how everyone else does it. I've talked to a lot of people that would do things, totally different than we are. But the way that I look at it is, when we came out of school, I did what most people do. I started racking up debt. You buying cars, and you get credit card, and you get a house, and you do all this stuff. And next thing you know, you're sitting in that cubicle because you got to pay for all this crap that you bought. And so now here we are, I graduated college back in 2001, and I'm sitting here now finally getting to a point where I can pay off that debt and get it gone. But when we started the business, we didn't take out any loans. We didn't invest heavily into this as far as, trying to obtain finances or anything. This thing has always been designed to take care of itself. I've got all my debt over here. That's my problem, and I didn't want that with the business. And so if anything tragic happened and the business needed to fold tomorrow, there would be no financial impact whatsoever.
Smart.
And so we just don't obtain big chunks of money and get ourselves in debt through the business. So it takes care of itself, and it will bump along and do what it needs to do, and we'll just keep it contained in that fashion.
Brilliant. And you mentioned, you're not exactly going out on the hugest limb because you have a regular job, but I would argue that even doing that is just as can be just as sacrificial, because people who make the transition to working for themselves full time, very risky, sure. But even people in your position, or some of your fighters, some of your downhill racers,
right,
work regular jobs. They work regular 8-hour a day, 9-to-5 jobs, and beyond that, they still pursue their passion. They still carve out their evenings to train, to promote their brand, to race, to whatever it is, which I think speaks just as much volumes about someone's character when you are working your regular job and still go do that. Because when somebody just makes the full-time transition, that's very risky and very rewarding. But at the same time, they kind of open up a lot of avenues to be successful when you work 40 hours a week or more, and then you go train, or then you go work on your shirts, or then you go do whatever. I mean, what kind of sacrifices are people to make? Family time, kids, whatever. They put a lot of things on hold because they don't have all day to grow their brand. They have from 6 p.m. to whenever they go to sleep or whatever. So kudos to you guys for working the full-time job and still doing this on the side. I think it speaks volumes about your work ethic and character.
Thank you.
So good for you guys. One thing I really like about your guys' brand is, as I said earlier, I love Seattle. I love Boise. It seems like your designs and your brand, especially on your social media, and I love your new line of shirts, is very much speaks Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, perfect.
Was that on purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. We're Pacific Northwest people. Love it here. The vibe, the atmosphere, and that's what we want to come through in our designs. So to hear you say that, that's great, man. That makes me feel good.
It's awesome. I mean, I love your Instagram. I was showing a buddy your stuff, and he thought I was showing him a photography Instagram.
Oh, really?
Like of somebody who takes pictures.
Really?
He wasn't even paying attention to the fact that you had a hat in the background or that you were doing whatever. It's just trees, rivers, wilderness, and then there's like the hat on the side. He's like, man, this is great photography. And I was like, no, the hat. That's what I'm showing you.
That's great.
So,
that's cool.
It's a great follow. I mean, no matter what you're into, especially going back to the Pacific Northwest stuff, I think that's great. You kind of got a new design going to new T-shirts. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's a much deeper story, but Tim's role in this business has kind of changed throughout the last couple of years. He came back from Cambodia. He was in Cambodia for about a month, and I guess it was about 2 years ago. And things were tough, man. And he was struggling with it a little bit. Wasn't really enjoying what he was doing. He's an artist by nature, and drawing and doing that stuff. Everything else is just kind of noise. He's an artistic person, and that's where his wheelhouse is. And I could tell when he was in Cambodia that, he was struggling when he was over there. I think Wick had just fought, and we had some conversations about Wick, but I could tell that there was something not right. He was on edge, and he came home, and I'd kind of prepared to hear something, and he was pretty emotional about it, and said that he'd wanted to, kind of move out of this business. It was not what he was looking to do, and he was really upset about it. It was tough for me, because Tucker at this point had already left a few years earlier, so it had been Tim and I for a few years. And I was, a little not knowing what was going to happen and where we're going to go with this thing. But above all that, the only thing I cared about was him being happy. I could tell he wasn't happy. And so for him to make that decision and carry that weight of leaving something that had been, something we cared so much about, it was tough for him.
Sure.
But what has happened since then is he's picked up photography, and that's what he's off and running on. So he's playing with that, still does design stuff for me. So we've managed to find a role for him in this business that fits exactly what he wants to do, which is photography and create designs.
Perfect.
And those are two things that I need a lot of. So everything is settled down, we don't have any arguments. We don't have any disagreements on stuff because I'm free to go ahead and do whatever I need to do, network with who I need to network with, because he's more of a behind-the-scenes guy. He likes to be out of the spotlight a little bit. That's why he's not sitting up here on the mic. He likes to just kind of be in the background. So we've got it now where we've kind of hit our stride a little bit, and we're both learning together. I'm getting into photography a little bit. We've got a video side of things that we're starting to kind of put together with one of the downhill guys, Bailey. And so, man, it's just, we spend a lot of time now just talking about how much fun we're having, because we've managed to mold this in a way that works really, really well for both of us.
That's awesome.
So,
I mean, I think that's a recipe for the best result is finding the right thing for somebody to do that they're passionate about. I mean, I think without passion, you're only bringing a certain amount of attributes to the table. But when you find someone's really core passion that they can do something with, I mean, the sky's the limit.
Well, and I'm such a huge advocate when I talk to people. You know, I had a conversation last night with a fighter, and I won't say his name, but he's somebody that I've enjoyed. I've seen him a few times. I've really enjoyed seeing him fight, and I haven't seen him a whole lot lately, you know, and it's like, man, let's get on in there. And so it's that push, you know, the people that to me, there's a line that most people get to. And when things get uncomfortable or scary a little bit, that's where most people retract. And that's for many years of my life. That's what I did. And I'm still fighting that every day. I'm trying to break through that point where most people are going to pull back. And that's why I work with the people that I work with, because they all push through that. And they're doing the things that they're doing because they didn't pull back. And when things got tough, they did 5 more, you know, and that is, I'm learning from those people. And when you see their success and what they're doing, you can't let up. And you know when you're not being honest with yourself about your time and what you're doing and this and that. When you're working with people like Jesse Brock, that, you know, he'll catch a wink and that's it. And he's working with everybody else and doing this and that. So I'm trying to push through that point and move forward, because I think that's where success is. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I loved what you said. You said when it gets tough, do 5 more. I mean, I think that's what separates, you know, for somebody who really wants to do something. I think it's easy for people to sort of say they're passionate about something, or be a fan of something, but to actually cross a certain barrier is different. Yeah. And to really, like you said, do 5 more. It speaks volumes about somebody's character and their capability. Yeah. You know, I think we live in a culture of comfort, and
big time.
You know, we've kind of receded into that, and I think it's only getting worse. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't have kids, but I see my wife's a school counselor. She talks all the time about how they're just plugged into the network all the time. And when they're not outside doing stuff. You know, we live in a society of comfort, and I mean, I can speak to that myself. I tell this story all the time. A few years ago, I'm not gonna say how many years ago, I turned 30. Right? It was my 30th birthday, and I was my wife had a meeting or something. It was in the evening. I was alone by myself, and my buddy called me as I was driving. Happy birthday, man. I'm like, thanks, dude. Appreciate that. What are you doing? I was like, well, I just turned, you know, I was thinking about my family history. And my grandpa, when he turned 30, he had fought in a world war. He was a lieutenant colonel in the Marines. He, you know, bought a house on his own. He didn't go to college. He, you know, had all this stuff. And by the time he died, he was, you know, war hero and had all this stuff. I just turned 30, and I left Best Buy with an Xbox Gold card on my way home to beat the next Assassin's Creed. So I'm rethinking my life choices. That's what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I'm rethinking the path of what I'm doing. But, you know, it's a funny story, but it really speaks to kind of a culture. Mm-hmm. And so when we find those people like Jesse, who I'm 90% sure doesn't sleep, and he grinds. I mean, he's a fighter. He's a business owner. He basically lives at the gym. He puts aside his own training to push other people, and he's just an example of one of a few people who do this. People like that, I think, really stand out. Those are the people who, when things get tough, they do 5 more.
And that's why, in my opinion, no disrespect to the rest of my athletes, but Jesse Brock to me is right up there at the top, and his work ethic is second to none. I mean, you look at that guy and what he puts in and day out, and like I've said before, what he puts into other people. He's just an incredible person. So yeah, he's the epitome of that, for sure.
Absolutely. I'm glad that he and Tomets are at the forefront of SPG. I mean, both those guys are grinders.
Scott, he's one of our favorites. That guy, I love that guy. Anybody who doesn't greet you with a handshake, it's always a hug. That's my kind of person. That's who I am. I like that. Always.
Every time.
We don't shake hands. Yeah.
He himself faces plenty of adversity. I mean, he'll come home from competing at IBJJF tournaments, and it's like, how'd it go? Well, my shoulder popped out, and I think my hip socket's ripped, but I think after a week or two, I'm going to be competing up in Seattle at the next one. Just like, what?
He's a crazy person, man.
What are you doing?
Yeah, he's something else, man.
Yeah, you definitely. I mean, you have found some really good guys.
Yeah.
So, for those of us who aren't involved in the transaction, just give me like a rundown. How does a relationship start with somebody? Like, how do you get with somebody and say, I want to sponsor this person? I know you mentioned that it's about the person. It's not about what they do. It's not about this. It's not about that. But how does the conversation start, and kind of where does it go from there to build that partnership in the first place, other than throwing a double XL on Nick Urso?
Yeah. Well, and we get approached a lot, and that's one of the hardest things about this business is to have to tell people no. I hate doing that. But the fact of the matter is we're still a very small business, and I've got a lot of athletes as it is now. So it's difficult to tell people, we're just kind of booked up. But what I tell anybody who comes our way is, first and foremost, we're not going to slap our logo on just anyone. Okay. And that's not an arrogant or a cocky thing or whatever. We want to work with the right kind of people. So, we've had opportunities in the past where, we've had some big names thrown at us to get our logo on, and I don't know that person. So I'm not really that interested. It's not just about where I can have my logo seen, it's how it's being seen. And so when people approach and want to, do sponsorship, I tell them, here's what we need to do. Like, I need to get to know who you are, because I'm sponsoring not only you as an athlete, I'm sponsoring you as a person. And I want to get to know you. So first and foremost, I mean, social media these days is incredible. I mean, there's so many people that I feel like I know when I walk around that arena that I've never even met. But we have conversations via social media all the time that I feel like you and I, we haven't hung out a whole bunch, but we chat every once in a while on social media, and you get to know who these people are. Sure. So for me, that's what I want. I want to get to know who you are, what your character is about. Make sure that you're invested in this. I mean, I'm not, no disrespect, but I'm not trying to, sponsor Weekend Warriors here. I want to work with people that are trying to, make this their life, because to me, that's intriguing. That's different than what most people do. I've been sitting in a cubicle for 17 years, and I'm fighting to get out of it. Being able to work with people that fight for a living, or ride a dirt bike for a living, or a mountain bike, that to me is incredible. So first and foremost, I got to get to know who you are, and there'll be a time that we'll get together. I mean, Chris Bateman's a great example of that. Chris Bateman, we started chatting a few years ago. I mean, it was a few years before we decided to pick up Chris Bateman, and that happened to coincide with a decision that we made that we wanted to start branching a little bit into the jiu-jitsu world.
Nice.
And start looking into that arena. So take the focus not solely on MMA, but start branching out into some of these different arenas that we could get into. And that's when we picked up Chris Bateman. But it was 2 years before we decided we were going to sponsor him. So, and like I said, it's not a cocky or an arrogant thing or anything like that. I try to behave and handle myself in a very honest and transparent way. And so that's what I want to know. I want that on the other end as well. So I need to know that before we go.
Sure, really get to know who's wearing your stuff.
Absolutely.
Again, going back to the partnership.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be a partnership. So
yep, for sure.
That's beautiful. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're 12 years into this thing.
We're 12 years. We say, we're more like 6, because we got serious about 6 years ago. But yeah, 12 years.
What was a big turning point 6 years ago?
I think just being tired of not moving forward. a brand side of things for fear of the unknown. I mean, that's another thing that, you have these things in life, whether it be purchasing a house or whatever it might be, these big things that you might hold off on for a while because it's big and scary and you don't know much about it or whatnot. And then I found every time you just do it or you get through it, you get on the other end and you're going, man, what was I so scared of? Just do it. So the brand was like, Tim learned how to write code and designed and developed our first website. So
Wow.
we didn't pay anybody to do it. Tim did it himself. So we've really tried to just take care of everything ourselves and get it done ourselves rather than pay someone else to do it. We try to learn it and do it ourselves. And that's probably one of the bigger reasons why Tigatu may not be as big as most people would expect to see, is because we're doing all this stuff on our own. We're not farming it out. We need to learn how to do this, then okay, or we need this, let's go learn how to do it. And that's what we're doing right now with photography and videography and stuff like that. There's plenty of people around I could pay to go do it, but
Sure.
I want to learn it and I want to know how to do it. So that's what we're doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant. I
That's
love
fun. It's a blast.
So in your journey, what are some other memorable, maybe turning points or maybe things that have happened for you? What are some real highlights of your journey so far with Tigatu?
Oh, man. You talking specific events or?
Just any points where you sat back and just thought, wow, this was an awesome thing that just happened for us.
I honestly, I don't do that a whole lot. You know what I mean?
Sure.
In situations like last night, you sit in that arena and you see Bellator in there and you see that cage and their logos and their people and everything going around, and it's like, wow, look at what's happened to the area.
Yeah.
It's not about us. And yeah, we had Josh Wick in there wearing our stuff and everything else, but it's more about the scene. I mean, what has gone on down here in Boise in the last 4 years has just been incredible. So I guess I don't really think about it from an aspect of what we're getting out of it. It's more about like, holy crap, look what's going on around here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And sure, within that, there's plenty of opportunity, but that's not usually a focus. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, as a business owner, entrepreneur, and brand creator,
fancy.
you're far too selfless. And, you're supposed to be here talking about how awesome you are in your brand, and it's all about getting your brand everywhere. Gary, what are you doing?
It's not who I am, man.
Too humble, man.
It's not who I am. I don't like hanging out with those people,
Dude, I think that's a huge key to your success, man, is like you said, from what I've seen, like you said, you and I haven't really hung out, but I mean, I see you a lot. I've
Yeah.
seen you tons of times. I've been going to that gym for 12 years.
Yeah.
We've run into each other a lot.
Yeah.
And what I love to see about you versus some other businesses that we partner with or people that come in or whatever is, like you said, they come in and it's very much a handshake, and it's very business oriented.
Yeah.
And no idea what these people's names are.
Yep.
No idea.
Yep.
I have no idea who they are. I see them. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
You come in, you're wearing a hat, t-shirt, Tigatu, hugs, high fives. What's up, dude?
Yeah.
How are you? And everybody knows you.
Yeah.
They know your name. It's not just that's the guy from Tigatu. Like people
Yeah.
know Gary.
Yeah.
And at the fights,
Yeah.
I'll run into you. We'll shake hands. Hey, what's going on? Cool.
Yeah.
Check out the fights. As soon as I leave, you don't even make it 2 or 3 steps before somebody else is approaching you, saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
seeing what's going on."
I love it.
It's fighters.
Yeah.
It's fighters' friends. It's Todd
Yeah.
Carlson. It's
Yeah.
Jesse. I mean, people I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, just as an outsider, it seems like your different approach to business, going against the grain, flying in the face of some of that stuff, and getting freedom from ordinary,
Yeah.
whether it's on purpose or not, it just seems to only play into the success of Tigatu.
I
it's
appreciate
great.
that, man. I do, because it's genuine. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I've seen many other clothing companies, and obviously we pay attention to what they're doing and how they're doing it and this and that, and just not the vibe I want to be putting out there. And what helps with that is really just kind of coming into your own and being comfortable who you are, and not second guessing everything. I mean, early on, you go put a post together and it's like, man, how's this sound? I don't want to come off this way or that way or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to that point in your life where you stop worrying about that stuff, you can just be you. And so anytime I'm around these guys, I'm just being me. You know what I mean?
Well, and isn't that easier?
It is.
It's just easier
Yeah.
when things are organic
Yeah.
and they're not forced.
I
and
can sleep
overthought.
better at night. Yeah,
For
without
sure.
a doubt. Yeah, those are the relationships that I like to build. And It's funny because, I think about it from time to time, and yeah, we're down here quite a bit. We get down about once every 3 months, and I get to see the guys. It's not for a ton of time, but these guys are all my friends. You know what I mean? We've become friends through the years, and I'm really genuinely interested in their life, not only in the cage or on the track or whatever it is, but outside as well. We've got a guy up in Seattle. He's Bailey Villalobos is one of our top downhill guys, and I say top because he was one of the very first guys we ever worked with in that arena. He was the first downhill rider that we picked up, but he's going to school for filmography right now. He really wants to get into that, and so he and I are working on the side. I bought some equipment for him to play with, and because he's helping me as well, and so building those he's my buddy now, man. He's a downhiller that shreds on the mountain, and we get to hang out and shoot videos and put them together and stuff like that, and that to me is a blast. I just love it. It's fun.
It's interesting how you have done your brand, these people do downhill, and you got fighters on the other side, and the common thread is they're people who cut their own path doing something exciting that they're passionate about, and the friendship feels just wildly organic because you guys, even though they're very different paths themselves individually, since they're connected by that thread, there's almost just an unspoken commonality there.
Yeah.
Where you can find that likeness in that person who's doing something like you're doing in a different avenue, and it's almost that unspoken connection. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. Yeah. I don't know where. See, you know what it is I'm sitting in this room, and I get in this moment. It's like you're sitting on a podcast, hanging out with these guys doing the free roll podcast, and then I get locked up. But
it's just you and me hanging out.
Yeah,
man.
I know. That's how. This is fun, man. This is cool. I don't remember where I was going to go with that. So next question.
From talking to you today, I very much get the impression that you are you are not looking backwards. You're not focused on the past. You're not focused on what has happened. You're excited about what's going on now. Mm-hmm. What's next? What's the future for Gary and Tigatu?
Don't really know, but it's going to be fun. I'll tell you that much, because we're learning a lot of new things, and in putting different things within this business. With Tim doing his photography and stuff like that. I'd kind of briefly mentioned before that. We're now starting to using some of his landscape photography in creating designs, and that's just another way that we've been able to find a niche really that works well for him in this business and doing different things like that. But overall, it's about scaling our lives back and getting closer to doing this full time. Every day that I sit in a cubicle, I'm wasting 10 hours a day, in my opinion, that I could spend on my own stuff where I get direct results. I get out what I put in. Whereas if I'm in a cubicle for 10 hours a day, it's a little bit more difficult. I'm losing hours that I could be doing my own stuff. So our drive right now is to get to a point where we're scaling our lives back, everything back, to get to where we're shooting videos and shooting pictures and making designs and printing out shirts. And we're going to do that in Coeur d'Alene. I mean, we're going to scale everything back. Like I said, we're not moving a lot of stuff, because where we've moved it to is either the dump or Goodwill. We're getting rid of a lot of stuff. There's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of everything that just needs to go. And so scale everything back, get simple, get lean, and focus on Tigatu. When I get out, I'm even looking at possibly getting into a screen printer over there so I can learn on their equipment, because I need to bring screen printing into our business. Right now it's something that we farm out. We do most of our other stuff in-house, but screen printing is farmed out at this point. But I want to learn how to do that so I can do it myself.
Sure.
So that's the path forward, is to continue to learn new things and find ways that we can continue to promote our athletes as well as our brand, and just have fun, man. Just enjoy it, because I like I said, I've been in a cubicle for 17 years. I've lived that life. I've had the mortgage. I've had the car payments. I've had the student loans. I've had all that stuff.
Sure.
I'm done with it. I want to be done with it. It's time to free up my own time and and chase what I want to chase. So that's the future.
Just solely focus on your passion.
That's it.
Beautiful. I mean, that's the dream, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, get rid of all the noise. There's so much noise out there today, man. And if you get caught up in it, you're wasting your time.
It's only getting more and more, too.
Yeah,
more
absolutely.
and more.
So we put the blinders on and we just edit photos. That's what we do.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you're making the big move. You mentioned you kind of got rid of everything old. You're getting something new.
Yep.
6 years ago, you had kind of a turning point where you made a real step forward. Is this maybe another turning point for you?
Absolutely. To me, this is the future of what we're doing. And again, I don't want to ever try and pretend we're something we're not. We're a small business. This is not, a big major thing. And quite honestly, that's not the focus either. I'm not trying to be a millionaire here. I'm not trying to buy houses in the Hamptons and stuff like that. I want to just not work a day job. I want to be able to do my own thing throughout my day and work with my people, and let's build this thing together. That's what I want to do, because that's what makes me happy. Sitting in a cubicle, that's not it.
Sure.
And that's the norm. I mean, that's what you're trained to do from a young age, that you get the house, you get the car, you do all this, you get married, and you have your kids and stuff like this. And it hit me about 3 years ago. I'm in a unique spot. My dad at 32 had 4 kids, was working full time. You talked about your situation where somebody was doing something different or whatever, but our dad, 4 kids, working full time. I'm in a totally different spot.
Sure.
And to not be married by choice, to not have kids by choice, there are no excuses, man. You can sit there and say there's not enough hours in the day, but you're a liar, because there's a ton of hours in your day. And I kind of, not that I was a heavy drinker back in the day or whatever, but I drink my fair share of beer. And when I started cutting that crap out of my life, I started getting up at 5 in the morning and going, well, there's a whole nother 3 hours in the morning that I didn't realize were there before, or I didn't want to realize are there. So there's all sorts of different things you can change and fix and do something different. But to be able to do something and chase your passion, that's what it's about. We're not there yet as far as full time, but we'll get there. I'm patient. We've been doing this for 12 years. If I didn't have patience, I would have quit a long time ago. So.
Yeah, I mean, along with living in the creature comfort society, it's also a very instant result oriented society.
Yeah.
Which in the sport of MMA, I'm sure in other sports too, but I don't play other sports. In the sport of like MMA, you get that from a certain percentage of people that are like, I want to fight and I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you very quickly learn this is a long journey.
Yep.
You're not going to come in great the first day, the first year. I mean, it's something you gotta really drive. Same thing with business. I think not knowing much more about certain people's businesses, I know people who've started businesses who it was rough for a year, so they just said, "No, clearly this is not cut out for me."
Yeah.
Maybe it is 6 or 12 years into it.
Yeah.
So kudos to you guys for just, when it gets tough, you're doing 5 more.
Well, keeping it simple, like I said, not having a bunch of financial weights weighing on you is allowed us to kind of push through where other people would have probably quit. I tell people we've had 1,000 chances to quit, but there's really only one opportunity to succeed. And so, it's just keep pushing, man. Don't stop. And like I said, keeping it simple and keeping it, condensed a little bit has allowed us to get through the tough times. And there's been some tough times, and not necessarily money woes or anything like that, but just frustration about not being where you want to be.
Sure.
And you have all these expectations, not only on yourself, but what perceived expectations from the outside. And that stuff just, after a while, weighs you down. And when you get to a point where you can kind of push all that crap off to the side, it's just a huge relief, and you just enjoy it. And so that's where we are right now.
Does it make it easier on you to do that when you kind of take that and compartmentalize it and make it just noise and go, hey, whatever. Let's just keep going.
I tell you what, and when you start doing that, you can swat that stuff away so quickly, because it just has no benefit. It's not going to benefit you at all. You see people that get online and argue back and forth of this or that, or what color was the dress, and then that doesn't matter, man. None of that stuff matters in the long run. At least it doesn't to me. I mean,
totally agree.
Everybody's different, and they walk their own path. But for me, a lot of that stuff is just noise, and I stay out of it because it's not beneficial for me. I How's it going to help me to just sit around and be angry and frustrated and yelling at people when what am I going to do to fix that? Absolutely zip. Nothing.
It's kind of like your focus is just trim the fat.
Absolutely.
Let's get to the
rid of
meat.
noise.
Let's go.
Yep. And it's simple to do if you want to do it. I mean, you can quickly find out where the fat is.
Do you think that's a conscious decision people can make? Just
I
to
do.
say, hey,
Yeah.
you know what?
I think so. But you have to recognize, the negativity that it's bringing you first.
Mhm.
It's similar to like when I said I kind of cut out drinking beer. You have to recognize that there's a problem there.
Sure.
You know what I mean? If you don't recognize that, I'm sure it's probably going to be a little bit, more difficult to make that switch. But I've had that mindset for many years, and so it's just kind of evolved as I've gone and gotten stronger. And now, you guys want to go talk about that? I don't care. I don't care. That stuff doesn't bother me.
Focus on what's important.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
Goals. That's awesome. Well, I'm excited for the future of Tigatu. I know you guys
Yeah.
are making your big move, and you said you're about done. You're getting pretty ready
We
to
are.
just get
Yeah.
going.
We hand over those keys on the 3rd. It's funny because we've been in this house for 14 years, which is the longest we've been anywhere. And it's been Tim and I, and handing over those keys, I keep, we talk about it, and it's like, man, I should feel a lot worse about it. Like I should feel, emotional, something, sadness or whatever. And it's the level of excitement is so much higher than the sadness of leaving that house and that place that we're going to be throwing the keys at him and running. Like I'm ready to go. I want to go. So
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier you don't have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've seen your posts, and you got a 4-legged kid.
I sure do.
Tell me
Man,
about your 4-legged baby.
She eats me up. Her name is Dasha. She was a rescue, and I don't say that like most people, so pat me on the back, and I'm a
She's a
humanitarian.
rescue.
Yeah. No, she was somebody sent me a picture and said, hey, look at this one-eyed dog, and I sent it to my brother and Tucker at the time and said, guys, we're getting her. That's all it is. And so she had been picked up in a Walmart parking lot off a reservation up north of us, and she was picked up by this Russian gal, and she had named her Dasha, which she told us meant gift from God. Now, I have no idea if that's what it meant, but that's the name that stuck. And so, yeah, we've had her around for 9 years now. She's got one eye, and she melts us, man.
Does it slow her down at all?
No, not at all. It's funny because there's a rule she can't be in the kitchen. And so you'll be doing something in the kitchen, you turn around and you can just see her one eye at the wall just watching you.
What are you
Yeah.
What are you making
Yeah,
in there?
yeah. What's going on in there,
are you
guy?
doing?
Did I hear something drop? Yeah. She's
What kind-
incredible.
What kind of dog?
She's a Blue Heeler Australian Shepherd mix.
Nice.
Yeah.
Likes to
Love her.
run.
She's a runner.
She's going to love those 20 acres.
And I tell you what, and so where we are in Monroe, we're in a condo, and so like most new homes now, or homes in the area, there's real small backyard,
Mm-hmm.
and so she's always on a leash because she likes to bolt after other dogs, not to fight. She's not around other dogs a whole lot, so she's interested and wants to play
Sure.
and whatnot. And so I'd be lying if I didn't say one of the biggest drivers for me in getting acreage out in Coeur d'Alene is just to let her go. And now it's really cool because when we've had her off leash in different places we've gone and camped or whatever, I mean, she doesn't get more than 20 feet from you. I mean, we're the comfort zone, and
Sure.
she's not going to go too far. And so, yeah, I can't wait to just let her play.
You're going to be like a proud dad.
Oh, my God. I'll
Just
probably cry.
bolts.
I'm sure I'm crying, man. I'm going to cry. Yeah.
No, they're just the best, man.
Yeah, I love it. And Tim's going to get his soon, so once we get settled over there, he's going to get one, and
Very cool.
she'll be able to do that,
Very cool.
big sister mom thing or whatever.
Yeah, big advocate of dogs and cats, pets.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
them. We got our mascot in studio
You
here
bet.
with us.
Yeah,
The
sweetheart.
worst Doberman ever. She's the biggest sweetheart on the planet. I love this dog. They're great, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited for your future. So, when it's all said and done, and you're an old man retired on your 20 acres, what do you want to look back and see from your foray into Tigatu?
I don't know. I'm sure I'll reflect on all the relationships with the people I met. The ones that I've met to this point, and you mentioned names like Todd Carlson and those guys. It's unbelievable the people that I've been able to meet, and I'm thinking about how many more I'll meet going forward. I'm excited about that, but overall, I just want to. I'd like to be known as somebody that was always honest and legit, and just a genuine person, because I don't like being around people that you can tell there's kind of an agenda or whatever. There's something they want out of it. You know, you can kind of see that in people, and I don't want to ever be like that. And that's why it's fun when you know, I'm talking to somebody new about or sponsorship or whatever. They're so used to what it is normally, and when, you know, they hear, no, I'll just give you the photos, or you know, I don't need you to do this or that. It's kind of shocking to them because that's what they're used to. And so I guess I'd just like to be known as somebody that was just a kick-ass guy and did some cool stuff, you know, and did some cool stuff. So
sounds like the best thing to be known as.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Not the rich guy who did this.
Don't care about it.
The guy with the millionaire in Puget Sound? Or
no, I'm not trying to buy a helicopter or anything like that.
Man,
No.
Gary was rad.
Yeah.
We're glad he was here.
Yeah, he was a cool dude, wasn't he? Yeah.
Thank God for Tigatu.
Yeah.
Check
some
out my
good
shirt.
burritos. Yeah, he can cook. Yeah.
Man, I can't believe he got so rich off of those rash guards.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Man, next thing you know, you're going to be wanting a percentage of this or something. We can talk.
Just wait till the mics go down. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming in, man. I was looking forward to this for a long time. You and I went back and forth about when you're coming into town, and I know, like, on my end, it sounded like, yeah, get down here. Hey, let's go get into town.
Yeah.
Very much excited for you to be in town. When you messaged me and said you were going to be in this weekend, I told him, I was like, I know you run 5 other shows, but tell him to get the hell out.
Yeah,
at 3 o'clock. We're sitting down with
So
Gary.
I did.
Well,
I rescheduled.
I really appreciate it. We spend so much time talking about our athletes and stuff like that. There's not really too many opportunities to really talk about ourselves.
Sure.
And it's not always a fun thing to do, you know?
Sure.
I mean, talking about yourself or whatnot. But good job on the show. I mean, the very first one that I listened to, it's just, you have a knack for
Thanks, man.
conversation.
Thanks,
and
man.
I was looking forward to it right away because I knew we would just sit down and BS. And to me, I love conversations like that where it's not scripted or whatnot, you know? And I know when I talked with Ransom last night, he was saying, I didn't say all the things I wanted to say. And I was like, wait, am I supposed to be thinking about all the things I want to say?
Not at all.
That's not how I do this.
Not at
so,
all.
yeah, but I really appreciate it, guys.
Thanks,
I
man.
really do. Thanks.
I appreciate the kind words. When we were getting this going, I was messaging somebody who runs a podcast that I listen to all the time. It's called the Grappling Central Podcast.
Right.
And it just on a whim, I was like, you know, maybe if I message this dude, he'd give me some pointers or whatever. Super cool guy. His name's Ryan Ford, and gave me some good stuff. And he said, well, what do you want to do with this show? And my response was, honestly, man, I'm not looking to do anything but hang out with people I like and talk about cool shit.
Yeah.
Like, I talk about with my fight buddies about fighting because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I care about. Talk to you because I've always been super interested in your brand. You and I have, you know, kind of developed a relationship.
Yeah.
I wanted to have you on here. Like, my only goal, sit around and talk about shit with people I like.
It's a good goal, man. It's fun, man. I enjoy it. This was good.
Good. Glad to have you on. Well, thanks again for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Gary, if people want to look into your products, people want to follow you, where do they go? You got some social media, you got a website.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, we got all that stuff. Our products can be found at Tigatu.com. Working on getting more stuff up more rapidly. That's part of the direction going forward is getting people involved in this business that can take care of the things I don't do necessarily well. There's a lot of different avenues as far as website, all that stuff. So V Squared Creative and Eric Broxham is somebody that I've communicated with quite a bit, and heading into 19 we'll get him on board. So we're looking forward to doing that. Again, right at the end. Train of thought. Facebook. Oh yeah, where we're at. Yeah. So find our stuff at Tigatu.com. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, on Facebook. Facebook we don't really do much with. But yeah, that's where you can check us out.
Just at Tigatu?
At Tigatu, yeah. Yeah, at Tigatu on Instagram. And I got Nick Urso calling me right now.
His ears were burning.
That guy. Nick, I'll get back to you.
He knew we were talking about him.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's where you can find us. And, man, you see me around anywhere, you know, people want to, you know, talk to me about sponsorship or whatever, learn who we are. I'll more than happy to tell you. I love linking up with new people and checking out athletes and watching their story and what they're doing, and just keep doing it.
Awesome. We're excited for you, man.
Cool.
I mean, I'm going to be around for a long time. You're going to be doing what you're doing for a long time. I'm excited to circle back in a while and see the next 6 years.
Yeah, we'll let you know how things are going in Coeur d'Alene. We'll be in a tent maybe. Who knows?
That's fine. Well, thanks again for your time, Gary. We love
Thanks,
having
guys.
you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.